They called themselves ghost hunters. Marcus Webb and Tyler Holt had been running their YouTube channel for almost 2 years. Lost Signal, a small operation out of Columbus, Ohio, hovering around 15,000 subscribers. Mostly horror enthusiasts, mostly people scrolling at 2 a.m. with their bedroom lights off. They filmed in abandoned factories on the east side of the city, derelict psychiatric hospitals upstate, the occasional forgotten rural cemetery off some unmarked county road. Nothing professional. A handheld mirrorless camera, a portable LED panel, and whatever nerve they could fake in front of an audience. Neither of them actually believed in ghosts. That was the thing people always misunderstood about channels like theirs. Behind the theatrical whispers and the staged reactions, behind every "did you hear that?" and every sprint down a dark hallway, it was content. A performance calibrated to spike adrenaline and keep thumbs away from the unsubscribe button. Marcus was the analytical one. The equipment guy, the one who read the history of each location out loud before they entered, the one who maintained the illusion of scientific method. Tyler was the entertainer, the one who screamed when screaming was called for, who laughed when the tension needed releasing, who always, without fail, found a way to make 12,000 strangers feel like they were standing right there beside him in the dark. They were good at what they did. Not great, but good enough. It was a Tuesday evening in late October when the message arrived. Marcus was in the middle of color grading footage from an abandoned textile mill in Dayton, his third coffee of the night going cold beside the keyboard, when his phone buzzed. An Instagram DM from an account with no profile picture, no posts, no followers. The username was a meaningless string of letters and numbers, the kind auto-generated when someone creates a throwaway account and doesn't care what it looks like. He almost ignored it. The message read, "Try the old cemetery off Route 40, past the grain elevator about 8 miles east of Zanesville. No one goes out there at night. There's a reason for that." He showed it to Tyler over breakfast the next morning. Tyler read it twice, set the phone down, and said, "Probably some teenager who wants to watch us freak out on camera." But he was already reaching for his laptop. It took them the better part of a day to find anything useful. The cemetery wasn't registered with Muskingum County. No maintenance records, no deed history, no affiliated church or municipality. But it existed. A post on a local history Facebook group from 5 years ago showed a man named Gerald Hooper standing proudly in front of a cluster of old headstones, arms crossed. The caption, "Found this hidden gem hiking off Route 40. Anyone know the history?" The comments were mostly curious. People guessing at pioneer families, forgotten townships, the usual amateur historians. But one reply, buried near the bottom, from a woman named Patricia Weller, read, "Gerald, please don't go back there. I grew up near there. People from that area don't talk about that place for a reason." Tyler clicked her profile. It was deactivated. They found 2 more references, a thread on a paranormal subreddit titled "Ohio Locations You Should Skip," and a reply on a ghost hunting forum from someone called Nightwatcher _OH. The reply read, "The cemetery off Route 40 near Zanesville is not like other sites. 4 separate teams have attempted to film there in the last 6 years. Only one of them ever uploaded anything, and they deleted it within 48 hours. I contacted a member of one of those groups. He wouldn't say much. He just kept saying the same thing over and over. We went in as 2. We came out as two, but for a while in there, we weren't two. The thread was locked. Marcus sat back in his chair and looked at Tyler across the desk. Tyler was already packing the camera bag. They drove out on a Friday night, because Friday uploads always pulled better numbers. Route 40 east of Columbus is the kind of road that feels like the country is slowly swallowing you. Flat farmland pressing against the asphalt on both sides. The occasional barn or grain elevator rising out of the dark, like something that has forgotten it's supposed to have a purpose. They passed the elevator mentioned in the DM around midnight. No lights on. A concrete cylinder against a starless sky. The air coming through the cracked window smelled of dried corn husks and cold earth, and something beneath both of those. Something older and more enclosed, like the smell of a room that hasn't been opened in decades. Marcus almost said something. He didn't. The cemetery appeared at the end of a rutted dirt lane, maybe a quarter mile off the main road. A low iron fence surrounded the property, the spear-tipped kind common in 19th century rural Ohio. Half of it leaning, several sections collapsed entirely. The gate was still upright. A chain and padlock held it shut, but the chain had rusted through so completely that when Marcus touched it, it fell apart in his hands. The links dissolved into orange powder against his palms. They stood at the entrance for a moment and just looked. The cemetery was larger than it appeared from the road. Rows of headstones stretched back into the dark, their shapes irregular and hunched, like figures frozen mid-crouch. The markers near the gate were old enough that the inscriptions had weathered past reading, not gradually, the way Ohio winters do to limestone over a century, but in a way that looked almost deliberate, as if someone had taken a tool to each name and scrubbed. Between the graves, old oak trees grew at angles that trees sometimes grow when their roots wrap around disturbed soil. Not quite wrong, but wrong enough that you noticed. And then the silence. That was the first thing that struck Marcus as genuinely uncomfortably strange. Not the absence of sound. There is always some sound, even in the quietest rural places at midnight. Wind finds the branches. Insects locate their frequencies. Your own heartbeat fills the acoustic space around you, but here there was something beneath the silence, a pressure to it, as if the air itself was pushing against the inside of his eardrums, not from outside, but from within. The way the atmosphere shifts before a storm that never comes. "You feel that?" he said. "Feel what?" Tyler was already checking his camera settings, squinting at the LCD. "Never mind," Marcus said. "Let's go in." He clicked on the EVP recorder, and they crossed through the gate. For those who don't know, an electronic voice phenomenon recorder is a device designed to capture sounds outside the range of human hearing. Paranormal investigators use them, hoping to record residual voices, the audio imprint of people who are no longer living. Skeptics, and Marcus counted himself among them, call them pattern recognition traps. Noise machines that your brain decodes into speech through a process called pareidolia, the same mechanism that makes you see faces in wood grain, hear words in the sound of an air conditioner. The rational explanation is always pareidolia. Marcus believed that completely, right up until the moment he stopped. The first hour was uneventful in the way that first hours always are. They walked the perimeter, camera rolling, flashlight beams cutting through the cold dark. Tyler did his usual performance, crouching beside headstones, asking questions with theatrical gravity, flinching at shadows he himself created. Marcus held the EVP recorder and watched the display. Flat bass line, the standard noise floor of a cold, rural night in October. "Anyone here with us tonight?" Tyler said toward a cluster of older graves near the back fence. "If there's a presence in this place, we'd like to communicate. Give us a sign." Silence. "Nothing," Marcus said, checking the display. He was relieved. He told himself he was relieved. But around the 45-minute mark, he noticed something about the layout of the cemetery that he hadn't been able to see from the entrance. It had two distinct sections. The older section, the one they'd been walking through, was organic in its arrangement. Graves placed without obvious order. Paths between them, barely paths at all. The logic of the space, following the land's contours. But the section further back, partially hidden behind a cluster of those angled oaks, was completely different. The graves there were arranged in a perfect grid, unnervingly precise. The kind of precision that requires surveying equipment, deliberate planning, intention. And every grave in that grid was oriented the same direction. Not east-facing the way Christian burials traditionally run. Not aligned with any compass point at all, but inward, toward the center of the arrangement, toward a single grave at the middle of the grid that was larger than all the others. Its headstone solid granite, still intact. The inscription still fully legible after what had to be well over a century of Ohio winters. Marcus walked toward it, flashlight extended. The inscription read, "Caretaker." No name, no dates, no scripture passage or epitaph. Just that one word, cut deep into the granite in block letters, as if whoever carved it had been certain that this, above everything else, must not be erased. "Marcus." Tyler's voice came from behind him, careful and flat. "Come look at this." Marcus turned. Tyler was pointing his camera at the ground between two of the grid headstones. The earth there was disturbed. Not recently, but in the pattern of repeated disturbance over a long period of time. Loose, dark soil turned over again and again, like something working at it from underneath. "Groundhogs," Marcus said. "Yeah," Tyler said. He was filming it from 3 different angles. They kept moving. The EVP recorder beeped at exactly 2:17 a.m. Not the low battery tone. Not the firmware warning. A single sharp pulse. Clean, deliberate. The way a smoke detector sounds in the half second before it triggers its sustained alarm. And then the display, which had held flat for an hour and a half, began to spike. Not randomly. Not the jagged interference of a cell tower or a passing truck. Even rhythmic pulses. Organized. Then the text display, which the device used to flag significant anomalies as phonemic patterns, began showing characters, one at a time, as if being pressed by a finger Marcus could not see. R. Lucy. N. Tyler laughed. Short, involuntary. "It's a firmware glitch," he said. "The noise floor on these cheap units causes false positives all the sound came from behind them. Not loud. That was what made it wrong. If it had been loud, they could have filed it, branch impact, animal movement, something on the road. But it was soft. A slow, continuous friction against the earth. The sound of something being dragged, or something dragging itself. Patient and unhurried, moving across the dead grass and gravel between the headstones. They turned their flashlights at the same moment. The beams swept across graves, oak trunks, more graves, empty. The cemetery stood exactly as they'd left it. Nothing had moved. "Raccoon?" Marcus said. "There's no wind," Tyler said. He was right. The oak branches above them were completely still. The loose soil between the grid graves hadn't shifted. They stood and listened. The sound did not come back. But Marcus, watching the EVP recorder, noticed that the display had not returned to baseline. The spikes had settled, not into silence, but into a slow, even rhythm, like breathing, like something close by, breathing slowly, making no effort to hide it. They argued for a few minutes near the collapsed section of the iron fence. Tyler wanted to leave. Marcus pushed for one more session. Each of them kept their reasoning practical. Footage, upload schedule, viewer expectations. Neither named the actual reason for where they stood. Marcus won. One more session, 5 minutes. Then they drive back to Columbus. He held the EVP recorder out in front of him, aimed toward the grid section of the cemetery, toward the caretaker stone at its center, and spoke into the dark. "If there's a presence here, if anyone is in this place, we're not here to be disrespectful. We just want to communicate. If you can hear this, please give us any kind of sign." 4 seconds of total silence. Even the baseline hum of the recorder seemed to drop out, as if the device itself was holding its breath. Then from the EVP recorder's small speaker, not from outside, not from any direction, but from the device itself, a woman's voice spoke, not distorted, not filtered through static, clear and close, the way a voice sounds when the person is standing right next to you, unhurried, deliberate, as if she had been waiting a very long time to say this particular thing. "You are 3? Neither of them moved. Tyler's mouth was open. The camera was still running. His flashlight was pointed at the ground between his feet. 3, Marcus said. The word came out without decision. "There are 2 of us." But even as he said it, something shifted in how he remembered the last hour and a half. The pressure at the gate, pushing against his eardrums from the inside. The feeling while walking through the grid graves that the spaces between the headstones were slightly too occupied. Not visibly, not with anything he could point to, but with the quality of air that surrounds something you keep not quite seeing. The way his flashlight at certain moments had seemed to cast just slightly more shadow than a single beam should. 2. He had assumed they were 2. He had not once thought to count. The camera wobbled. Tyler was shaking, not visibly enough for a person to notice, but cameras register what eyes decide to ignore. Marcus turned slowly. Very slowly, with the specific slowness of someone who is afraid that speed will confirm what stillness might still let him deny. He swept his flashlight in a full arc behind them. At the far edge of the grid section beside the caretaker headstone, something stood. He saw it for less than 3 seconds. Tall, wrong tall. The proportions of a human form stretched past the upper limit of what human forms reach. Impossibly thin, standing with total deliberate stillness, the kind of stillness that belongs to things that have been standing in one place for longer than they should have been able to. Then his flashlight swept past, and it was gone. No movement, no sound of movement. Not even the loose soil around the caretaker grave disturbed. Just gone. As if it had never pressed against the space it occupied. They didn't speak in the car. Marcus drove, faster than he should have on a dark 2-lane rural highway, but Tyler said nothing about it. Tyler was watching the footage on the camera's flip screen, rewinding and replaying the same 20 seconds. His face in the dashboard glow was completely blank, the specific blankness of someone whose brain has received information it doesn't have a category for. "Is it there?" Marcus asked. "Yes," Tyler said. He angled the screen toward Marcus without blocking his sightline. Marcus glanced over. The footage was low light and grainy, the flashlight beam swinging. And there, at the left edge of the frame, was the shape. Tall, wrong, completely still. 3 seconds. Then the frame moved, and it was gone. "We can work with this," Marcus said. His voice was steady. He was grateful for how steady it was. "Upload the shape with the EVP audio. Cut it right. It could..." "Marcus." Tyler's voice was quiet in a way that had nothing to do with volume. "I need to tell you something." "Go ahead." "In the first session, before anything happened, when I had the camera down for the battery check and you'd walked ahead." He stopped. Started again. "I felt something behind me. I turned around and there was nothing, but the air was cold in one specific spot, about a foot behind where I'd been standing. Just that one spot, exactly the size and shape of a person standing close." Marcus kept his eyes on the road. "I didn't say anything because I convinced myself it was my imagination," Tyler said. "But now, thinking about what the recorder picked up, I don't think it was my imagination." They drove the rest of the way back to Columbus without another word. The apartment smelled of stale coffee and the particular closeness of a space where someone has been awake for too many nights. Takeout containers on the counter, the monitor casting blue light across everything. Marcus sat at his desk with his headphones on, the cemetery audio file open in his editing software. Tyler sat on the couch behind him, holding his phone, not looking at it. The waveform on Marcus's screen was wrong. He'd edited enough location footage to know what a standard night recording looked like. A continuous low rumble of ambient noise with clean transients. Voices, footsteps, wind against the mic. But this file had a second layer, a trace signal running beneath all the surface events. So low in amplitude, it had been invisible on the recorder's display, inaudible through the built-in speaker. It had been present from the very first minute of recording, running beneath everything the entire time. He boosted the gain on the low-frequency channel. The second layer became audible through his headphones. It was a voice, not the woman they'd heard through the recorder's speaker. Different, lower, more deliberate. The cadence of something choosing words from a language it had learned rather than grown up speaking. And it had been running continuously beneath their entire session. Beneath every word they had said, every joke Tyler had cracked in the first hour when he still thought this was just content. Marcus turned the gain up until it hurt, and he listened. "Don't tell the third one." A beat of static, then "Don't let it know that you can hear." A long pause, longer than a breath. Then clearly, "It doesn't know it followed you in." Marcus stopped the playback. He sat with his hands on the keyboard and stared at the waveform. He could see the continuation when the trace signal maintained its level through the rest of the file. And at the very end of the recording, a small isolated cluster of low-frequency data that he'd initially tagged as equipment noise. He moved the playhead to that section. He pressed play. "It has been standing behind you since the gate." A breath, or something shaped like a breath. It learned how to follow by watching living things follow each other. It is very patient. It has been listening to everything you found. Silence. Long enough that Marcus thought the file had ended. Then the voice returned, quieter than before, much closer to the microphone. It is standing behind the one in the room with you right now. From the couch, Tyler's voice came through, stripped of everything except the information. Marcus, the hallway door is open. I closed it, I know. Tyler, I closed it when we came in. Marcus. Slowly, Marcus lifted the headphones from his ears. He could hear his own breathing, the CPU fan, the heat register ticking in the corner of the apartment. And beneath all of that, not from any direction, not from any source in the room, a faint, slow friction. The sound of something moving across a floor, patient, unhurried, getting closer. Marcus turned around. 3 days later, Tyler posted to the Lost Signal community tab. Not a video, just text. Marcus hasn't come home. His family has filed a missing persons report with Columbus PD. We were together on Friday night filming at a location in Muskingum County. I don't know what happened after we got back. I don't understand what we saw out there. If you have any information about Marcus Webb, please contact me or Columbus Police directly, please. The post received over 3,000 comments within hours. People asked for the footage. People asked for the GPS location. People, with the complete confidence of audiences trained to assume, declared it an ARG. The next chapter. An elaborate real-world puzzle built for engagement. They praised the commitment to the bit. They theorized about what came next. Tyler didn't reply to any of them. He went dark. His personal account stopped updating. For 11 days, Lost Signal showed no activity at all. And then he went with no notification, no appearance in any subscriber feed, no record in the platform's upload logs that could be explained or traced. A video appeared on the channel, 12 seconds long. No title, no description. The thumbnail was the default black frame the platform assigns when none is selected. 87,000 people watched it in the first 90 minutes. It spread, not through the algorithm, not through reposts, but through the particular urgency that moves when people watch something they cannot explain and cannot stop sending to other people. Just watch this, just watch it, I don't know, just watch. The video showed nothing but darkness, not the darkness of a night recording, where cameras still find depth and gradient and the ghost of ambient light. This was flat, absolute. The darkness of a place where light has not existed and does not belong. For the first 9 seconds, there was no sound at all. Then breathing, heavy, deliberate, close to the microphone. The breathing of something that was working at it, producing the sound on purpose, learning the shape of it, performing it to be heard. In the final second, before the video cut to black, and the entire Lost Signal channels, every video, every post, every comment, every subscriber, vanished simultaneously from every platform with no deletion record, no account termination notice, no trace in any back-end log. A voice. Not Tyler's voice. Not Marcus's voice. Not the woman from the cemetery. Something that had spent enough time near human voices to have almost learned what they were supposed to sound like. It said, "Now we are really 3. The channel's disappearance was escalated through the platform's trust and safety team, then to their legal department, then, according to a former employee who spoke anonymously, to a federal agency they declined to name, The upload logs showed the 12-second video had originated from an IP address that resolved to no physical location. Not a VPN, not a Tor exit node, not any form of anonymizing proxy. The address was structurally valid. It passed every authentication check. It successfully uploaded a real video file. But when traced, it corresponded to no registered device, no internet service provider, no network infrastructure operating anywhere on the public internet. 14 screenshots of the video were preserved by viewers before the deletion. Forensic image analysts examined them. In the lower left corner of one frame, barely visible, requiring significant enhancement, was the outline of a hand, pressed flat against a surface, floor or wall impossible to determine, with too many fingers. The shape captured in the cemetery footage, the tall, thin form visible for less than 3 seconds beside the caretaker headstone, was reviewed by 3 separate image analysts working independently of each other. All 3 reached the same conclusion. It was a real object in the frame, not a lens artifact, not digital compression noise, not any form of post-production manipulation they could identify with available tools. None of them would speculate further. Marcus Webb has not been found. Tyler Holt has not been found. The cemetery off Route 40 east of Zanesville, Ohio, was visited by Muskingum County Sheriff's deputies 14 days after the men were reported missing. They found the site consistent with Tyler's description. The collapsed iron fence, the 2-section layout, the grid graves oriented inward, the caretaker headstone at the center. They found Marcus's car parked at the end of the dirt lane, keys in the ignition, engine cold, no sign of struggle or trauma. In the back seat was Tyler's camera. The lens assembly was shattered from the inside out, as if subjected to a sudden pressure change originating within the lens itself. The camera body was undamaged. The SD card was missing. The battery, a brand new lithium cell installed fresh that afternoon, rated for 6 hours of continuous recording, was completely and evenly discharged, as if the camera had been running for a very, very long time after they left. If you're ever driving Route 40 through eastern Ohio, if you pass a grain elevator in the dark and see a dirt lane cutting off into a field, keep driving. And if for some reason you don't keep driving, if you go down that lane and push through that iron gate and walk between those headstones, count the people with you. Count them when you go in. Count them while you walk. Count them before you leave. Because the number can change. It can change quietly, between one moment and the next, without a sound. And you might not be the one who notices.